Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. On today's video, we have a little bit of a test and try episode. Over here, I have 3 Commodore machines that I've kind of accumulated over time. We have a Commodore 64 with a button that someone installed here. And then I have another Commodore 64. It's a little dirty and got a broken key. And then lastly, we have a Commodore VIC-20 in a box. But this machine, as I received it, I don't really know the details behind it, but in here, there's a dataset drive, and there is an RF modulator with the little TV switch box. And then the computer is in here, but the machine has been, well, let's just say, disassembled a little bit. So there's the top. It was not even installed. Keyboard was attached, or maybe it wasn't, and I plugged it in. And there's the motherboard. So it's one of the later revisions. It's got some red marks on a bunch of the chips. I don't know what that means. I'm wondering if someone had like attempted to try to fix this thing. It's not working. And then they just gave up and threw it in the box with the lid and just were like, I'm done with this thing. So in this video, it's all about testing. I will do brief, quick repairs, but ultimately I just want to mark whether these machines work or not. And then if they're broken, then they'll end up on the main channel in a repair video. I have a pile of Commodore 64s over there that are all broken, and I have done a previous test and try. So I usually like write a little sticker on the bottom here, put a little sticker there that just says what the symptom is. So let's get to testing. Why don't we start with the VIC-20? Because I'm kind of curious about that and why it's completely disassembled. All right, let's take a look at this thing. It's in actual really good shape cosmetically. Well, the case is. Now we have a gold label case for both the power and the main label there. The later one's got a rainbow sticker or label, much more like the Commodore 64. The thing is, as far as I'm aware, all the gold label machines were not this machine when it comes to this like cost reduced later motherboard. It's kind of like the equivalent of the Commodore 64 shortboard. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the shortboard, the 64 shortboard that is, and this motherboard are the same, like when it comes to the way they mount and whatever. So as my understanding, I could take a 64 shortboard and put it into this RF shield adapter that's in here, and it would work. That actually brings up a little interesting thing. So the case bottom, and here it is, also, wow, absolutely perfect. In the international markets, as far as I'm aware, the case bottoms have these extra little like dimples in the bottom of the case. And that's because they actually have little standoffs for these screw positions here for both the shortboard and this version of the VIC-20 like cost reduced board here. In North America, we never ended up getting those. So anytime you want to put a shortboard into a bread bin case, you have nowhere to screw it down in this position because the normal standoffs are, you know, these 3 positions here versus this, this, and this. So yeah, this adapter was needed for the VIC-20 board. And like I said, I'm assuming I could screw a regular 64 shortboard into this adapter and then put it in the longboard or the bread bin case as well. The only thing is, as you can see here, it has been soldered on to the RF shield there. That's just part of the shielding. There's a little bit of cardboard underneath there. There's a good amount of socketed stuff on here. Obviously the ROMs are socketed. CPU, the 2 CIAs, but the RAM chips here are not in socket. So if those are bad, well, plus some of these DSLogic chips, if any of those are bad, well, that'll keep this thing from working. I have no idea why they took the power LED out. In fact, the little plastic thing that goes on the bottom of the LED to hold it into the case cover is missing. So that's unusual. Looking at the keyboard really quick, I mean, it's a little bit dusty, but feels like it's in, you know, decent shape. Don't really notice anything weird. It's the Mitsumi version. This is the most common version of the keyboard, I think, on the bread bins. Now, what I like about these cost-reduced VIC-20 boards is they got rid of the big heatsink that was on the earlier ones, because the earlier ones run off of AC voltage and then require like a rectifier on board and a 5-volt regulator, and that generates a whole bunch of heat and stuff like that. They did away with all of that on this board, and it just uses a regular Commodore 64 power supply, which is great because I don't have one of the other VIC-20 power supplies on the bench. And anytime I try to use one of those boards, I have to, well, plug it in my bench supply and I give it a bunch of DC. When that DC passes through the bridge rectifier, you know, it's fine. There's no problem as long as you give it enough voltage to handle the diode drop of the rectifier. But I end up having to use like clip leads and stuff like that. So, okay, there we go. Oh, we got some money. Not a lot, but we got a penny in there. So yeah, a US penny. Otherwise, as you can see, the condition of the case is, yeah, really, really nice. Awesome. So the VIC-20 cost reduced. Not seeing any issues right off the bat. There's no rust or anything terrible looking on the bottom. And the condition of the board is really nice. A little bit dusty, but you know, it's old, so that is completely reasonable. So I have the little VIC-20 pigtail here. Plug this in like that. Power is connected. Let's switch inputs. You're looking at the RetroTink. It's set to composite video. Let's turn this on. Well, we're getting something, some kind of a video signal. Oh. Well, that's boring. The system just works. Look at that. Now I'm looking in my little box of test parts here, and I think I have a VIC-20 diagnostic cartridge. This was previously sent in by a viewer. Let's see it. Hopefully I wrote the name of the viewer on the card here. I did not. That's not great. I wish I had done that because I like to be able to tell people thank you for saying this in. So we have the diagnostic cartridge itself. This looks like it's for the cassette port. We have this little board right here, which goes into the user port. It goes into probably the IEC port. Yep, IEC and the keyboard port. And then there's one more little thing. It's a loop back for the joystick connector. Let's just quickly give these a quick clean here. They look a little dusty. Nothing too bad though, just minor. All right, here we go. Hopefully this works. There we go. Testing 0 page, stack page, and it's doing something. Oh, RAM tests, duh. So this kind of begs the question, like, why was this computer completely disassembled and like thrown in a box randomly? I don't really get that. So at least so far, this machine appears to be working properly. There's testing the graphics region, or the text mode, that is. Oh, here we go. All right. So testing the timers, keyboard, sound test. Well, I don't have the speaker hooked up. I'm sure it's working fine. So, I mean, this machine does appear to be working okay. It does, oh yeah, there we go, cycle count. Okay, cool. So this thing is fully functional. It does kind of beg the question, like, why would someone take it apart and just throw random stuff into a box when you have like a mint condition VIC-20 that all it really needed is some screws for the keyboard and some screws on the case. I guess there's a possibility that the keyboard is bad. So let's grab the dusty keyboard, see if this thing works. Hello? Oh, okay, well that's, okay, that's weird. There was something wrong with the shift lock key. It was sort of not latching properly, but now it is fine. So there we go, now it's down, now it's up. That's weird, it was up, but it was actually printing those characters as if it was down. And I suppose that could have thrown someone for a loop if they aren't too familiar with VIC-20s or Commodores and they were just getting gibberish when they typed. They might have been like, oh, this computer sucks. This computer actually does work. Yeah, okay, keyboard seems fine as well. So this machine is it's good to go, no repair necessary. And actually, this kind of reminds me, I have this, which is a ZIF 64 board. This was sent in by a viewer, and I'm assuming that's my viewer's signature, and I don't remember who, so some caps have been moved to the back to make space for these chips. I haven't tested this motherboard, and oh, the other thing that's cool about it, but by the way, not only does it have ZIF sockets for like the main ROMs, but look at this, every other chip is fully socketed on here. So that means that, like, you know, it's a good test bed for just testing everything else. This is very similar to my ZIF 64, although I don't think I socketed quite everything on there. But just testing the main chips is nice and easy. I guess there was no room here. Yeah, there wouldn't have been any room right here to put ZIF sockets in place of those. And that's, I was able to get one ZIF socket on my ZIF 64. Anyways, that's missing a couple chips. So let's use the chips from this, and I'm gonna test that thing out. So we got ROM chip here. We have one ROM chip. This is the CPU over here, 6502. So let's just get that out of the board. And then these two ROM chips. And to be honest, I can never remember the ROM chip part numbers. So I'm actually gonna write on here with a marker, and I'm highlighting right here what I'm gonna do with a marker, just to put the actual correct part number onto the board. So I know which chips go where. There we go, CPU and ROMs are installed. Let's plug the video and power back in. And it looks like it's working. The power switch was on already. So once I plugged this in, it was good to go. All right, I suppose I could run the diagnostic ROM on this, or the test harness, just so we can validate for sure everything is good to go. There we go, the test harness is connected. And that reminds me, while this is running, I have a couple more chips to test right here. There's a VIC-2 chip right here, or VIC-1 chip that is, and I think it's a ROM chip. I need to test these because I'm going to be sending these to someone who's working on a VIC-20 project and needs those for testing. This is something that benefits the entire community. All right, here we go. It's running through all those tests with the test harness, doing its magical things. While that runs, let's grab a marker. And I'm just going to write that this motherboard is good. I'm just going to stick it up here. Good. And what is the month? It's 9/2023. Okay. All right, sweet. Well, I guess that worked. Cool. So let's just turn this off and let's pop out the VIC-2 chip. And I can test this one I had sitting there. Close that. That's funny. The color looks way different, doesn't it? Is this not in all the way? Is this normal that it does this? Like, the border is, well, should be like a lighter cyan color. Here it's sort of like a, I don't know, whatever that is, sky blue. And then the bottom where it has, you know, 00 days, that should be a red. And it definitely was red with this VIC-2 chip, but this one, okay, well, that's sort of marginal, but I think that's probably going to be okay because the person who's going to be doing this work, they just need it to output some kind of an NTSC video signal. It doesn't necessarily matter that the colors aren't quite right, but that's a bit weird. Let's look at this color pattern it's about to draw here. Yeah, there are the colors. Yeah, weird. It's very washed out. If I pull this out, this diag cart, maybe the cyan color is okay. Notice the border color. Look at how that looks, and I'll swap back in the original chip that was in this machine, and you'll see it's going to look quite different. That's what I would expect. That is the normal VIC-20 color scheme right there. Not what this other chip is generating. That looks weird. Yeah, that definitely looks strange. As far as dates go, we have 46th week of 1981, so it's a very early chip there. And the one that's working properly is 42nd week of 1983. So a couple years later, but makes all the difference when it comes to that funky color. The last chip I'm going to test and send over is the 486-06, and I did end up writing those on here. So 460-03, and over here we have 48601 and 48606. 48606, as far as I'm aware, is the kernel. So let's pop this in. And I'm sending this VIC-2 chip over to Europe where NTSC chips are very uncommon, and you need to have the NTSC kernel because this chip is actually quite programmable, and the different kernel, well, if this was a PAL kernel, would actually program the chip in an incompatible way. So you have to kind of pair these up. So let's make sure that this is working, and it is indeed. In case you're wondering, I put back the chip that has the correct color there. Let's just check one more time that this other one looks weird. So pop that in, close the thing down, and there it is, looking funny, but whatever, it's working. So that gets a tick mark. In fact, I'm going to put tick marks on all of these. That has the one already. That one gets one. That one. These all work, along with the SRAM chips. I mean, this whole board works. Sweet. And then I was able to test to make sure that these two chips work, so they do, which is great. So I can send those off finally. And I know that this ZIF board works, which is excellent. I do need to take out these three chips though, because they belong to that other machine. And I'm just gonna put the other one back together. To fix the LED situation, I went into my little parts bin and I found the little ring. Well, hopefully this ring is good enough. It looks a little mangled up, but the way this works is you put this on over the LED like that, and then you push the LED through the plastic ring that's, well, it's already on here. Sometimes it comes off. So you push that through. Like that, it clipped into place, so the LED is actually firmly attached in there. And then the little ring that's on here, you push it over the little plastic thing that's in the case. I don't know, this is not gonna work. I think, to be honest, it's gonna be okay like this. The LED seems very firmly clipped in there. But ideally, this ring here pushes over the plastic part that's in there. It's a little hard to see, but there's a little ridge to it. and that keeps it from expanding. That will keep the LED from falling out no matter how hard you push on it. Now I noticed that this case has good clasps, and those always break, so that's pretty cool. So there we go. It's back together, and I went in the box and there were 3 screws, the box that this thing came in. I don't know where the keyboard screws were. I went and got those out of my own little thing of C64 case screws. But these should do the trick to hold this nice computer that just needs a little bit of a clean together. And then now a little Windex, microfiber cloth. Just give this thing a little bit of a clean so it looks a little bit less dirty. You know what, looking at this keyboard here, it looks like someone's done a little bit of work on it. We have a yellowed 3, 6, 0. Well, some of the keys are kind of yellowed, but I'm just wondering if that looks very different than the rest of the keys around it. Perhaps that was because those were broken off. Someone needed to do a little bit of repair work. All right, there we have it. Cloth's a little bit dirty. It was a freshly laundered one. This machine looks sweet. I gotta say, I really like the creamy color of the VIC-20, which is exactly why my ZIF 64 is in a VIC-20 case. Now, I did modify it to accommodate the cartridge slot for the 64. It actually sticks a little bit further down. And then the RF modulator, which is not part of the VIC-20, that was external, as you saw in the box there. So that sticks through the cartridge slot there. But otherwise, it totally fits. And I also have my different keyboard, the Euro keyboard in here, which I really like. Kind of a rare keyboard. I don't really see a lot of those. But yeah, transferred the badge over. No sticker on this one. But yeah, I mean, this thing could use a little bit more clean. This is not a full restoration, but I'm pretty pleased with this. What a sweet little VIC-20. Alrighty, let's go to the next machine here, the 64. It seems to be either missing a foot or it's very bent. No, oh, that one is gross. These are weirdly fine, but that one is very soft and very sticky. Let's get it off there in case it like leaves a gross mark on something. You know, when these rubber feet disintegrate, you can like put them down on a piece of furniture or your desk and it leaves a big smudge that's very difficult to get off. And if you put it on something cloth like your couch, then you're really going to be sad because it's really difficult to get off. And I did that once with a VIC-20. I left a VIC-20 sitting on my couch that had the feet disintegrating like that. And well, it just left a really nasty mark that was hard to get out of the fabric. I'm just giving this a bit of a clean because it's quite gross. There's some real gunk right there in the corner here. So I don't know the history of any of these machines. They were all given to me by local folks here in town. So I don't know like if they work or where they came from or what. But 64 here, a little worse for wear. That VIC-20 is by far the nicest of all of these. But you know what? It's cleaning up. It's cleaning up without too much trouble. All right, so before we turn this on, take it apart, as Dave Jones says. Let's see what we find inside. Maybe there's some kind of like cool board that was like added on and we're missing a screw there, like some kind of a mod or a bodge board or something. No, this thing I don't think it's been opened that much. It's pretty much unmolested. And it looks like that switch, oops, what's holding on? There we go. Looks like this was installed and not really ever hooked up to anything. Or if it was unhooked. I'm assuming it would be like a reset switch or something. It's a momentary switch. I'm just pushing on that. Yeah, it's momentary. Typically reset's usually soldered on right here. That's like the easiest way. There's a reset pin on there. I mean, it's not the best way to do it because sometimes you can't break out of stuff. But hey, look at this computer. It's quite unmolested. Quick observations here. I think there's a screw under the computer. There it is. Quick observations. We have a Philips branded PLA. This is when, oh no, that's a Signetics branded PLA. So that means that this PLA will be 100% functional. These chips are very, very reliable. They run hot, the 82S100, but they are super duper reliable. So that's not a mask ROM. I'm pretty sure Commodore bought those and then they programmed them. So or maybe Philips or Signetics did it for them. But I heard they just bought these chips, the A200S100. It's a programmable logic array chip, PLA, and then they programmed them and put them in. It was later those MOS versions of the mask, well, they were like mask ROMs in a way. Those PLAs were the ones that always fail. and they fail in such a way that creates bus conflicts and you get black screens and, you know, all the usual stuff. But these, on the other hand, are ultra reliable. I don't know if I've ever had a bad one of those. So pop this out, get this cardboard out of here. We don't need that. All right, what else do we see about this machine here? Well, socketed, not socketed. And then these are all in sockets. The VIC-2 is going to be in a socket. So this thing is nicely socketed. It was my understanding that the reason why some of this stuff, well, almost everything's in a socket on this machine, but other machines are no sockets, and then some have just the odd thing. It was because Commodore ran out of chips constantly. And what was happening is they were building these machines as fast as they could. They would assemble everything almost completely, but then where they were missing chips, because the other production lines, like for the MOS CPU or the 6526s, you know, when they weren't ready, they just installed sockets. They set the boards aside to then be installed into computers when these chips were available, and then someone populated them. And maybe the PLA was in here because, you know, they ran out of the MOS version. I mean, who knows, right? And then they were, you know, using these more expensive Signetics ones. What do we see date codes? 83. Yes, it's kind of, you know, a bit late. Now, it could also be that the original PLA died 1985, or, well, there are two. Yeah, no, this is the date code, 1988. So, yeah, so this is the PLS 100. Now, people were probably screaming at their screen. Well, I didn't have my goggles on, so I couldn't really read it. But the PLS 100 is the Philips version of the 82S100. So Philips ended up buying Signetics, which is the S logo right there. And then they made the PLS 100. Very reliable chip. Yeah, this would have been a replacement for the original PLA that probably died on this computer. What else do we see? We have Oki RAM here. It's all the same. There's a MOS chip right here, so that's bad. Those are very flaky. These are all name brand, so that bodes well, except for this one IC. Let's pop the cover here and let's see what we see underneath. Oh boy, that is a stuck thing. There we go. Let's see what kind of VIC this is. I'm assuming this is going to be an R8, most likely. And it is 6567 R8. They produce a good, strong image, although this RF modulator is the one that has the usual issues that I've talked about in previous videos. You got to like cut a few components in there and do a little mod, and then it will look much sharper on this particular revision of board. I mean, the reality is the rest of this thing, it looks pretty darn good. Why don't we just give this a test? Let's see, make sure that's in the off position, which it is. And let's see what we get. Got something. Black screen, okay. So this thing is obviously gonna need some type of repair. And as I mentioned, I'm 99.9999% sure the PLA on here is not gonna be an issue because it's a very reliable chip. There's something else wrong on this thing. Let's just do the old quick heat test. Nope. Everything is running super cool. That kind of stinks. I wonder if there's a power problem. The only thing that's warm a little bit is the VIC, but none of these chips are warm at all. And in my opinion, that's not normal for something of this era, 1983. Some of these chips should be getting warm, especially the SID and the PLA. Let's grab a probe. All right, the oscilloscope's up. I'm not gonna do a lot of troubleshooting. I just want to check the voltage rails on here. All right, we are getting 4.86 volts on the 5-volt rail. That's excellent. Let's just check another chip randomly. Yes, looks good. I'm checking the 12-volt regulator and we're getting 12.1 volts, so that's excellent. And then I'm checking the 5-volt regulator, which supplies power to just a couple things on the board, and that looks good as well. Yeah, so the fact is we're getting 4.86 volts from the power supply, so that implies the power switch is good, and we're also getting 12 volts on the regulator, which means the AC is getting through, and it's being rectified through the fuse and stuff like that. So that's all working. So we have good power rails on this thing. We are just not getting any normal activity. I just am on a random pin on the PLA, and well, that looks normal. So the computer is attempting to work, but I'm on some lines on the CPU and there's no visible activity. There's some right there. Zoom out a little bit. So that's just on a random pin. I don't even know which it is. That one doesn't look super hot. Power cycle the computer. Yeah, that line doesn't look good. So this could have a bad CPU, to be honest. Could have a bad lots of things. Could be bad ROMs, could be rad CPU. All right, well, we know there's some signs of life, so let's just get the Post-it notes out here. And what are we gonna write here? Black screen, gonna write good voltage rails, and just some activity. All right, there we go. So that's what we're doing for the troubleshooting on this. Okay, I'm gonna stick this on the outside of the case because I'm gonna reassemble this machine. Quick feel of the chips one more time. Okay, you know what's weird is now things are quite warm. I'm wondering if originally, you know what if this thing is working? No, it can't be working. Let's just change the input. Now, we're getting a total black screen. Okay, I was like, I wonder if there was a power problem on the switch and just turning it off and on kind of made that work again. But yeah, because now these chips are warm like I would expect. ROMs are warm, CPU is pretty warm. PLA is a little bit warm, but not burning hot. SID is out. Yeah, that's hot, but that's completely normal. If you have any ideas of what you think might be wrong with this, definitely let me know in the comment section. But we'll be diagnosing this at some point in the future. Alrighty, done with this machine. Just put that label on there. On to the third and final machine for this video. Alrighty, so this thing is well, quite dirty. I already lost my cloth here because I feel like before I touch this too much, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a clean just to get some of the grime off there. It looks like someone wrote something on here. What does this say here? Tight inputs? What? It's a bit weird, but whatever. Okay, we'll just keep cleaning this. It's funny how just like a little bit of cleaning goes such a long way to making a computer that, you know, looks and feels really grimy, makes it feel okay to touch, right? That's so much better than it was. Let's give this thing a test. Now, in case you're wondering about that broken key, I luckily have a pretty good set of like spare stems here for the 64. I got a bunch of spare keys, and I'm pretty sure I have a few parts keyboards as well. I know I do, actually, so I can pretty easily repair these. That way, once this computer is fixed up, then I can just fix that keyboard, and then that way, whoever gets this machine will not have a broken keyboard and have to go, you know, search online. Oh, that was a good crack. So this thing hasn't been molested too much. They won't have to go look for, you know, pay overpriced prices on replacement parts and stuff like that. Okay, look at that. It's still attached right there. Huh. Oh, look at this. 125X or OK. So, taking these screws out while we look, 2 socketed chips here, and that chip here, that's the PLA is socketed. Got some red paint on it, but look, the SID is actually in the board. So the SID is not, SID is usually socketed. I've found that most machines it is, but not always. Not always. Okay, that can come out, bye-bye. Actually, I don't know why I'm even trying to unscrew the board because it does have the RF shield in it. So it's not gonna be easy to do any repairs, just for quick work. So what I'm gonna do is we'll just put this back in and we're gonna test this out. So MDK10HB, interesting. So yeah, I'm wondering if this MOS PLA is gonna be the problem with this machine. And that's of course, if it doesn't work. So let's, oh, it was already on. Turn that off. All right, here we go. Black screen. Are we shocked? Oh, it's freaking working. What? I mean, what are the chances? Honestly, I just assumed it was not gonna work. We got all the RAM? I mean, what? That is freaking amazing. Whoever this is that did that note, thank you for a working machine. Wow. I'm just gonna clean off these connectors a little bit. I put some contact cleaner on them because we are going to do the dead test cartridge, not dead test, the diagnostic harness on this thing. Give it a try. All right, everything is plugged in. Oh, except for a cartridge. Let's pick the right one. Diag is this way on here. Okay, there we go. I have the speaker connected as well so we can hear it. And let's turn this on. I'm frankly shocked. Every time I run into a bread bin that's this particular revision of board and it works just out of the blue, I'm completely surprised. It's got, I think, Toshiba RAM on here, so that's not an issue. Where are my where's my goggles? Goggles, where are you? Oh, put them down here. So let's see about the other chips. Do we have MOS chips on here? No. Everything is like name brand on here. No MOS. No MOS, like no more. 44 week of 1983, 43 of 83. So very similar age to that other one. Look at this. It's completely working. Everything is working. And there's the sound. So, okay, the SID's a little noisy, but it is working. So that means dance party time. Let's turn that down. I'm gonna have to plug something in to control this. I don't know, it's been a while, I think, since a dance party was had on the channel. Here we go. That's the wrong input. You know, gosh, it looks really soft. Oh, I'm on composite actually, so that's one reason. Not on S-Video. There we go. So Adrian's tools and 8-bit dance party, here we go. Let's hear how this sounds. Hear if the SID is truly working. No, it is not working properly. Oh dear. I mean, it's mostly working. Okay, that sucks. So you might be, you probably were listening thinking, oh, it sounds fine, but I'm used to that song, that specific song. I've heard it a billion times. I'm gonna run the SID tester on here and see if I can figure out which of the channels or filters is not working properly. I need a keyboard though to do this. I'm gonna use the one from my ZIF 64. Whoops, okay. Well, that finished, and to be honest, that sounded completely fine. But like I said, I'm so used to the way the dance party track sounds, and it's definitely not working quite right. But this SID is like almost entirely working. It's very noisy, there's a lot of background noise in it as well. But other than that, probably would work for most people in most cases. I'm just gonna try some other files here to see if I can hear any issues. That one sounds fine. Yeah, this one too. No, it's weird. It sounds weird, which unfortunately is one of the problems with the SID chip. It is a digital chip, but it's also an analog synthesizer. And what happens inside there is things just start to go kind of weird occasionally. You might lose a channel, or you lose a particular filter. Something clearly is acting funny on this that didn't really show up in the diagnostics. And if you just ran the normal, like when we did the diagnostic harness, you just heard the tones, everything sounded perfect. There's absolutely something weird going on in there. And if I bought this chip, say I was looking for a replacement chip and I bought this one, I'd be pretty upset if this is the one I got, because that's not how a SID should sound. So what I do when I get these is I'm just gonna write an M on here, so it's to tell me that this is a marginal chip. So it's working, but not super great. But this machine, on the other hand, I just write good and 9/20/23 just to say that this thing tested good, which again, I'm completely shocked about. And then the only thing this thing needs really is this stem and key replaced. So I'll do that off camera. There's nothing much to it. But I gotta say, it's pretty awesome. We have a working bread bin, which I completely didn't expect. And to be honest, we have a working VIC-20 here, which I kind of did expect. VIC-20s they're pretty reliable machines. If they haven't been mistreated, like stored in a shed with a bunch of rust and corrosion, they generally work properly, especially those later ones like that. And then all we're really left with is one machine that's gonna need a repair, this one here with the button here. So this is going back into the stack there. As for these two machines here, they're gonna be passed on to local viewers in the community. I know that a lot of people would like to, get a Commodore 64 or a VIC-20. Problem is I don't have any time in my schedule for packaging and shipping. That takes quite a bit of time, and I really go flat out trying to produce videos for the channel. So ultimately what I do is I just ask people around in Portland, hey, do you need a VIC-20 or you need a Commodore 64? And usually I get a taker right away. So the local community here benefits from all the excess amount of stuff that comes through the basement here that I fix. And I know it can be difficult because people, like I said, out there in the greater community in the world are like, oh, I wish I could get myself a 64 or a VIC-20. And yeah, that's the reality is, unless I get myself an unpaid intern who could help me with that stuff, then maybe that would be possible. But until that time, I'm just going to stick to giving this stuff away. So that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it and you're looking forward to repair on a 64, then thumbs up would be appreciated. If you don't like this stuff, then you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Huge thanks to my patrons. Their names are scrolling up the side of the screen. They make this all possible, literally possible. So if you want to become a patron and a supporter of the channel, you can do so. The link in the description below. You get your name on the scroller here, and you also get early access to videos and other behind the scenes stuff, at least for the higher tiers on Patreon. And that's going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.